Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And we got Arnold Schwartenegger giving the ladies of The View a little bit of a surprise, as well as updates on the chaos in Iran. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we start.
Sure.
I've arranged most of the Iranian stories for RUMBLE. That's the Green Monster. We head over there at the end of the show for more touchy subject matters. I've put a couple of the stories, like the real big major ones, on YouTube, just so you can kind of stay informed if you don't want to go over to RUMBLE with us. As well as, I do have a morning show at 12 Central. It's about pop culture. It's Monday through Friday. That's going to stop going Monday through Friday, and it's just going to be on Mondays because I have to focus more on making edited videos for that channel, and I don't know much about editing.
No,
so I
usually. So we split all the work. Guy does all the pre-production, so all the cameras, lighting, sound, anything that you can see right now and hear right now. And then I do most of the editing and research as well, etc.
Yeah, most of the pop culture, Mondays is filled with pop culture news because it builds up over the weekend. So I figured I'd keep the Monday show, but the rest of the week, until I get proficient and quick at editing, I'll just have that show on Monday. But let's get right into the stories. I think we got Arnold Schwartenegger first.
Yes. Hold on. Yes. What was that? So it's from Benny Johnson. Do you want me to read the whole thing or just?
No, because he's going to say most of this on the clip.
Okay.
Okay, but we are going to have to pause the clip because it is The View, and they do like to
Disney loves to
copyright and things like that.
Hold on, because I'm all tangled.
Get your pink headphones on and let's go.
I'm all tangled. Okay.
Self, you are an immigrant. You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Pause it.
Well, I tell you,
And let's just remember, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be the governor of California.
Yes.
It's one of the few times that California, outside of Ronald Reagan, elected a Republican governor. That being said, he has a lot of Democratic views. That's one way he was able to get elected. He was also married to Miss Shriver.
Maria Shriver.
Yeah, Maria Shriver, who was heavy into the Democratic Party. So.
And during the bad times, he also came out to say some pretty dumb things.
Yeah. So I really expected him to take a different stance here. I was actually surprised at him.
The immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created that. I mean, the George.
And he did have a lot of success, and there was talk around the time he was governor they wanted to change constitutional law to allow foreigners to become president. It never happened, and his governorship kind of collapsed under his feet because he economically mismanaged the state.
The beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and it is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America.
They must be hating this. I mean, she's showing the history of America, what it used to mean to be an immigrant in the United States and things like that. So,
of America, and I will be doing the speech that they asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens. That day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of a history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal. And those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to
and they are, I'm surprised nobody's interrupted him rudely and try to sit him straight, because they do that to every other guest. But let's continue.
America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that.
Like someone's trying to touch him and be like, shut up. I think it was Sunny, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. But you have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever.
The crowd is clapping at this point, and the girls on The View are
silent.
they're trying to interrupt now at the end, but now that the crowd's on his side, I don't think they want the.
I'd love to find the rest of it. Let me see what.
Make this country a better place.
Arnold, don't forget.
And we kind of heard there at the end, what's her face? Whoopi, trying to, come out and say, Arnold, but they cut her off right. Thankfully, they cut her off right there. But
I mean, Arnold must still have some sway, because we have quite a few viewers right now, 21, which for our English channel is quite a bit. We have another channel called Nat and the Guy in Espanol.
Yes.
We broadcast from Mexico City. So we kind of built that channel first, and now we're trying to expand into this English channel. Thanks for everybody that's currently watching.
And I was just going to say, I mean, I was an immigrant in Canada for 13 years. You're now an immigrant in Mexico. Legally. And we've both tried to do as much as we can to, me in Canada, I mean, integrate, do what I could, work. I volunteered quite a bunch. Not saying that I'm perfect and that I'm doing exactly what Arnold is saying, but he's very right. And once, like when you are and you go through the process and you pay the money and you do the massive effort it is to become at least temporary or permanent or whatever resident or citizen of a country, you understand a bit more and you realize why you're actually trying to do that.
And then let's not forget the United States actually welcomes illegal immigrants as well. At least they have for decades. And they actually gave illegal immigrants that immigrated illegally a path towards citizenship. So there was a way for them to file paperwork, things like that in the United States. A lot of them neglected it for 30 years, and now they're not going to accept illegal immigrants anymore. At least they're trying to transition out of that. And the violent protest that we've seen over the weekend is just, I think, an example of how you don't act if you're an immigrant. But I don't think it was immigrants. I don't think it was immigrants at those protests primarily. It was radical leftists
using the cause and actually making it worse for both Mexican and migrants from all over the place in the U.S., but also Mexicans over here, because now they're calling the U.S. and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's Mexican insurrectionists, when no, it's not. It wasn't ever.
And we're going to get back to the immigration talk kind of near the end of the YouTube segment before we go over to RUMBLE to talk Iran. But I did put 2 Iranian stories in here. These are probably the most important 2 of the day. Why don't we play the first one? The first one's a clip of Tucker, and I'm seeing a huge amount of bots just implementing any clip of Tucker saying he's lost his mind, he's crazy, this and that. Yesterday, before they had a chance to really unleash the bots on him, all the comments were in support of anti-war, not non-interventionalist, things like this. So obviously Tucker's kind of being singled out and he's taking the brunt of this, but he made Ted Cruz look like an absolute fool here. Let's take a look at this.
I was going to read quickly comment from Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Walker. He says, hello, guys. Hello, Walker. And says, what a fascist speech from Arnold. He obviously doesn't know what human rights are. And because he was coming from...
Austria.
Where? Okay.
I believe.
I don't know his story. He's not that much from my time. I know who he is.
Oh, yeah. I used to know his story. I think he was from Austria, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, like completely agree. And it was lovely to see the ladies of the views completely have to shut up because he was speaking from his own experience. As
Well, and
people
then the
love to
crowd
say.
sided with Arnold.
Eventually, at first you could only hear like one clap and someone saw that nobody else was clapping and they kind of stopped. You could hear it. And then like at the end, people are like, yeah, he's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, walking into a country is not a right, it's a privilege. And when you do it legally, you actually get to contribute, but also attain to the responsibilities that you are given as a citizen.
Okay.
Are you trying to kick me?
No, I would never kick you.
So I shut up. You really want to watch this clip, so let's watch this clip.
Okay, this was I actually grabbed this clip where you were conducting your Spanish show, and man, I was surprised at Ted Cruz's lack of general knowledge.
So this is from Savannah Hernandez. It says, I can't stop watching this clip. Apparently,
I couldn't stop watching it either because I had to bring it right into the show as one of the main clips.
Okay, let's see.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
What percent?
predominantly Shia. Okay, this is
no,
cute.
it's not
Okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
Okay,
actually
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know
claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Hey.
That was great on Tucker, and he had quite a few moments in that interview. They are currently being clipped all over X. There was another exchange that was almost just as bad for Ted Cruz. And just for the audience, I'm going to restate at least my stance, and I believe you have a similar stance to me. And that is, if they want to fight, Israel and Iran can fight, or anybody in the region can fight. The U.S. should stay out of it. They should put America first and nationalize a non-interventionist stance. That's what a lot of Trump's supporters voted for him for. That's why a lot of Democrats voted for Trump. That's why a lot of Democrats came over to his big tent coalition, like Tulsi Gabbard, like RFK. This is why a lot of libertarians like Dave Smith voted for Trump as well. Trump, in his first administration, was going against a bunch of Republicans in order to get the nomination, and his stance was they lied to you about Iraq, and they're still lying to you about Iraq. He's a non-war candidate, or an anti-war, non-interventionist candidate, and he's said that for the last 10 years. So now when he keeps stating Iran can't have nuclear weapons, Iran's trying to kill me, blah, 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 blah. Well, these endless wars, that's something that you promised. So yeah, you promised Iran wouldn't have nuclear weapons, but you also promised to not get involved in these endless wars. So let's keep going though. We have...
And a big thing with the whole Trump thing, and also I think should be applied to every single other country in the world, is the whole make America great again, but also make Mexico great again. Like, focus on your country, get your country straight before you start trying to globalize everything and bring everybody in, because we've seen the results of that and it doesn't work.
Well, the statement, make America great, we've supported Trump in two countries where it's not easy to support Trump. That was Canada, and now we live in Mexico, and we were still supporting him up to this point. I'm not saying I'm not supporting him yet, but if he continues on with this war, I will no longer support him. When he said "Make America Great," we meant through economics, not through warfare. If you're failing on your economic strategy, whether it be tariffs or anything else, I do understand he needs to dramatically restructure the U.S. economic system. And if he's thinking he can't do that and he needs to go to war in order to do that, I do not agree with that. I understand the strategic value of Iran, and it's to cut off China's oil supply. The main oil supplier of China is Iran. A lot of people think it's Russia. It's not. They're trying to transition to Russian oil. They're currently building the pipelines, but that's going to take probably 5 years. So.
And Walker says, "Holy God, I'm fed up with the fact that there's no alternatives to the USA to belong to a hegemony opposed to Russia and China. Holy God, we're doomed."
And I'm far more, I would say, in favor, or not necessarily in favor, but okay with regional powers intervening in wars. For instance, if somebody came to invade Mexico or Canada, I would expect the U.S. to jump in because they're the regional power in this part of the world. But they think they're the world's police and they're just going all over. And Trump is now saying, oh, they're trying to kill them. Oh, they have nuclear weapons. Oh, this and that. And none of it makes sense. And you're trying to sell people on these lies. They've heard these lies in the former Iraq war, Afghanistan war, and Iraq too. So, okay, let's move on. But that being said, this was an interesting statement put out by Iran today.
Remember, we can't say KILL.
Okay.
End. So this is from the Daily Mail.
Not a clip.
And I don't like the Daily Mail, but I mean, it was only what place I actually found it.
This is all over the place, so I believe it is pretty much verified.
So Iranian Supreme Leader declares the battle begins after warning Israel about great surprise that the world will remember for centuries as Trump weighs whether to order U.S. strikes. Iran's Supreme Leader sent a series of apocalyptic messages as U.S. President Donald Trump continues to weigh his options for the U.S. role in the ongoing war. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei threatened Israel on Tuesday night by posting a disturbing image that showed balls of fire raining down upon an ancient city as a sword-wielding man enters the gate. In the name of the noble Haidar, the battle begins, he wrote in Farsi, referring to Ali Hushia.
And this is going to be interesting because they haven't made a super major strike. Yes, they've tested the Iron Dome, and the Iron Dome has failed at this point. They actually had some of the Iron Dome missiles reversing and having Israel hit themselves by mistake. We have video of that later. But that being said, they've been pretty moderate in their response. They haven't hit any U.S. bases in the region, and that's what I would have expected their first move to be. But it looks like they're giving Trump an off-ramp. Putin also called Donald Trump right after the Israel strike to try to say they can be a negotiator between the U.S. and Iran if needed. So Trump has an off-ramp right now if he wants to take it. If this war keeps escalating, I think they're telling Donald Trump they're going to make this quick. They're going to do a decapitation of Iran, and they're going to have a regime change. I think that's what they're selling Trump on. And I'm telling you, if he believes that bullshit, they're going to turn this into the next forever war. Okay.
He's more geopolitics. I'm more like culture and entertainment.
And we're going to get more into a little bit of culture in a minute. One more thing I was going to say about this is, well, we'll move on and we'll talk about it when we go over to RUMBLE. Well, maybe I'll say this. Trump needs to be very wary right now. If there has been 2 attempts on his life, I would expect a third to be coming because his base is leaving him in quick fashion, or at least splitting in quick fashion. And if he can't rally his base, the neocons and the deep state are going to rally his base by maybe taking his life, and J.D. Vance will take over, and then he'll say, we are going to war now. Okay, let's continue on, though.
Yes. More worrying news, but in a different way. This is from Reclaim the Net. Senate pushes bill that could end private messaging. Encrypted platforms could become collateral damage in a legislative push that threats privacy itself as a liability. Treats privacy itself as a liability.
And I'm the one that gathers all the stories. I linked this story right after the Iranian story because I am watching just nonstop independent media and mainstream media, as they talk about mainly Iran, is the topic of choice today and yesterday. And you're seeing the neocons and the people that want war. There's two things. There's one through line, and there's two things that they want. They want censorship and they want war. And so that's the camp. The people that don't want censorship, don't want war. And then you have the camp of people that do want war and do want censorship. And it's just very surprising they're trying to push a censorship bill through this quick. They're doing it on the back of protecting children, which is the traditional stance. But there will be more bills on the back of war.
And this is something I always keep warning about, that they always use the whole security pretext, or it's for safety and we have to make sure that children are not bad things happen to them online, and the public has to also be careful with blah.
And let's just remember, the Patriot Act was originally proposed, signed into law, and was supposed to be extremely temporary, and they just kept renewing it and renewing it and renewing it. And on top of that, we still have troops in Iraq. We were told we went into Iraq because they had a nuclear bomb. They never did. Yet we seem to be still there today.
So under the pretext of strengthening measures against child disgusting things online, a controversial Senate bill is resurfacing with provisions, that privacy advocates say would gut critical internet protections and compromise the security and privacy of all citizens, known as the Stop, I have to say this, like C-S-A-M Act of 2025. The legislation is being criticized for using broad language and vague legal standards that could severely weaken encryption and open the floodgates for content takedowns, including legal content across a wide range of online services.
And we cover online censorship a lot on this channel, so this looks very similar to bills that went through in the UK and the EU.
And Canada.
Yeah, and Canada, but mainly the UK and the EU. Canada has bills they're still trying to press that like this. A lot of them got knocked down in Canada, but there is a ton of censorship in Canada as well. But the main reason I point out the UK and the EU is because the UK specifically is making Apple put a backdoor into all their encrypted messaging and things like that if they want to sell iPhones within the UK.
And also here in Mexico, even, they're planning a very similar thing. I spoke about it in Spanish a while ago, last year, I believe, and I think it's kind of dead on the floor, but on the floor right now, but not paying attention to it. But it's under the same pretext, and it's always this pretext that, well, yes, it's very important to control and make sure that disgusting things don't happen, especially to younger people. The broad implications, the wide implications that this would have on just the population in general, and the actual measures that would be taken that could impact everybody, I don't think it's either the target, that's what they actually want to do, or they're not being considered, which I don't think is actually.
They're basically saying we have to strip your freedoms in order to protect certain groups. And yeah, if you have to strip people's freedoms in order to protect people, you need to find a different way to do it. Okay, do you want to continue on with the bill, or?
Well, current regulations already compel online platforms to report known instances of such material to the, etc. However, this bill goes well beyond this existing mandate, targeting a wide spectrum of internet platforms with new forms of criminal and civil liability that could penalize even the most privacy-conscious and compliant services. The scope of the legislation is sweeping. Its provisions apply not only to large social media platforms, but also to private messaging apps, cloud storage services, and email providers.
Yeah, and I'm expecting a lot more bills if this Iranian conflict keeps escalating in this same vein, but to be far more reaching than even this bill. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go in.
And Walker asks, Guy, did you see that China is moving its people out of Iran?
Yeah, well, there's a few things I've seen. Number one, China is bringing cargo jets into Iran. It could be for military means, or it could be for aid and things like that. Yes, a lot of Iranians are moving out of Iran, and it's a shame what Israel kind of did in this situation. I'm not really taking a side, but I'm saying that Israeli government knew they were going to strike Iran. They were going to blindside them. As soon as they struck them, they knew Iran was going to strike back. And what they did to their citizens is they said nobody's allowed to leave the country. So they completely shut down their borders, and they're not allowing their citizens to leave the country or Tel Aviv, which is huge because that's right where Iran's going to strike. We've seen something similar happen to Iran when Donald Trump warned that people should leave Tel Aviv, there was a mass exodus from Tel Aviv, and I'm guessing from Iran in general. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the Chinese are moving any citizens they have there out. There was another strange fact I seen when I was researching this Iranian-Israel conflict, and that was the fact that in the Middle East, Iran actually has the largest Jewish population in the region outside of Israel, which was shocking to me.
Sorry, I had to touch my eye because contacts.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's move on here. And we got a major volcanic eruption, and I tend to put this in every time there is a major volcanic eruption.
Yes, so massive eruption at Indonesia's Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki, I think. Is there sound?
And this looks very cinematic just on the still image here. I'm sure it's going to be shaky camera when it goes, though. Man, that looks like a picture of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Then all that ash spreads everywhere. Here in Mexico, we have an active volcano, well, semi-active volcano that sometimes decides to burp, and then there's ash everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Usually Puebla gets warnings, but it gets all the way to Mexico City.
And every time we do one of these stories, I mentioned that there has been a ton of active volcanoes and earthquakes this year, way more than normal, right around the Ring of Fire, which is the Pacific Rim. So that would include Mexico, Canada, the United States, and all of Asia. It's mainly on the Asian side so far, but there is a major volcano that's underwater. It's one of the world, I think it is the world's biggest volcano, 2 miles off the coast of Oregon, and it's expected to erupt and cause major earthquakes and things like that.
Do you want me to read into it or no?
Yeah, read a little bit, and then we'll quickly move on to the next story.
So from the BBC, Indonesia issues highest alert as volcano erupts. One of Indonesia's most active volcanoes spewed a huge ash cloud more than 11 kilometers into the sky. On Tuesday, after officials issued the country's highest alert, Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki erupted at 5:35 p.m., the country's volcanology agency said, sending the vast cloud above the tourist island of Flores.
Okay, and let's go into the next story, and it's
And
about...
here in Mexico, we do have that volcano. I want to see if you can say it. The volcano we have here is called Popocatépetl. Can you say that?
Yeah, Popo.
Catépetl.
No, can't say the rest.
Say it.
I can't.
Well, if it burps,
Okay.
you have to be able to say El Popocatépetl.
What?
Cuidado,
I don't
careful.
even think you can say it at this
Yes,
point.
Popocatépetl. Everybody can say it.
Popocatépetl?
But now you're not. Popocatépetl.
That sounds sexual. Okay, let's move
Don't
on.
say that word. We can't say that word on YouTube. And Iztaccíhuatl is the other one. The legend is actually really cute. The two volcanoes
Let's
used to
hear
be... So the two volcanoes used to be lovers, I believe, or like boyfriend, girlfriend. And then the warrior, Popocatépetl, had to go... That's the name. Popocatépetl had to go, from what I remember, correct me any Mexicans that are watching, had to go off to war. And she thought that he had... It's essentially Romeo and Juliet. So she thought that...
This is a long-winded volcanic story, romance.
So Iztaccíhuatl thought that he had left her forever, so she fell into this deep sleep, which is why it's a mountain. But now it's a mountain. It used to be a volcano that kind of looks like a sleeping woman. The nickname is the sleeping woman. And then Popocatépetl came back after the war, or like after wherever he went, and knelt down next to her, forever kneeling by her side because she was asleep forever. And now he erupts anytime he thinks about her.
It's like a bedtime story. You're putting me to sleep here.
Sorry.
Okay, let's go.
Rafa says, Walker says, here in El Salvador, we also have active volcanoes. It's kind of like part of the whole region, everywhere.
Yeah.
Rafa says, says, hello, I'm a little busy right now, but here's my thank you.
Yeah, you must be in
Yeah, you must be
Philadelphia
doing
right
a bunch of stuff, because I think it was for work. So we hope you're having a good time in Philadelphia. And
Okay.
staying safe out there, please.
Let's go into the Spain story now.
No, Spain?
And this wasn't about the protests in Spain that are going on that we covered yesterday, but this is about the blackouts that happened a month or two ago.
Yes, so Spain, this is from CNN World. Spain says April blackout was caused by grid failures and poor planning, not a cyber attack.
Yeah, if they're saying it was never rumored it was a cyber attack. It was always rumored it was their massive failure with their green energy grid. A lot of European countries are suffering from this green energy grid that doesn't give consistent power, so they're constantly having rolling blackouts and things like this. Similar things are happening in California as well as Texas as they try to transition their energy grid. It doesn't work very well, but the fact that they're coming out and they're saying it's not a cyber attack means it's probably a cyber attack, because it was never even really rumored to be a cyber attack.
True. And what I would say is maybe they're trying to, not have to delve into their massive, because hadn't they just kind of transitioned into fully green power and wind and solar and et cetera, and then it failed? So I'm sure they don't want to admit that part.
Yeah,
either.
they had been touting that on the weekends that Spain had transferred to complete clean energy, but not during the week. That being said, that was part of the issue they were having is green energy couldn't give consistent power to the grid. And the EU and the globalists are planning to connect all of Europe into this interconnected grid where if one country goes down, it's going to start rolling to the next country and the next country and the next country. That's why it's kind of, I think, essential to have independent power grids for these countries, but I guess the EU knows best.
I mean, a little bit of France and a little bit of Portugal also got affected by these blackouts initially. So.
Yeah, because that region they've already connected. They haven't connected it to the rest of the European grid, which they want to do in the next couple of years.
You want me to read into it or no?
Yeah, you can. Oh, you can read the propaganda, but I really don't think it was a cyber. I mean, I really think it was probably a cyber attack at this point.
So Spain's government said Tuesday that the massive April power outage across Spain and Portugal that left tens of millions of people disconnected in seconds was caused by technical and planning errors that left the grid unable to handle a surge in voltage. Ecological Transition Minister Sara Aijezin, who manages the nation's energy policy, told reporters that a voltage surge led to small grid failures, mainly in the south of Spain, which then cascaded to larger ones and brought the system down into Iberian Peninsula nations. She ruled out the failure was due to a cyber attack.
Okay, and we get quite a few power outages. We got the first one here at our place in Mexico, but they happen quite frequently here. But they're pretty good because they happen so frequently. They do, if it happens to be a breaker or something like that, or not a breaker, what went out the other day?
I think they disconnected a cable outside. Oh, no.
A transformer.
Transformador. I don't know how to say it.
So a transformer went out, but within an hour they had it fixed. In Canada, when a transformer would go out, man, it would take forever for them to fix it. So,
but still, we call it the CFE, or the electrical company of the well-being of bienestar, because they've done a lot of cuts to that in Mexico.
Okay.
Let me quickly read Walker. So Walker says, here in El Salvador, we have tremors almost every day. That's why they call El Salvador el país de las hamacas, which makes us the land of the hammocks, because everything always shakes. I can't say the name of that volcano in Mexico either. Popocatépetl.
Hey, before we head into the next story, I'm just going to say really quick, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed, it would be a huge help. We're trying to monetize this channel. We've already monetized our Spanish language channel, but we're trying to get this English language channel monetized as well.
Yes.
Okay, let's go into the tanker story. And I probably meant to put this up near the Tucker clip, but we'll go into it now.
So wait, what? Where are we going?
The tanker story.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So I
got distracted. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Should I read what Tim Pool says?
Let's read both.
So Tim Pool says, here's what I fear. The U.S. will intervene only to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Iran or Iranian-backed forces will attack U.S. assets and personnel. The U.S. will formally enter war with Iran. Breaking tanker Adeline engulfed in fire near Strait of Hormuz. Massive oil tanker Adeline wound up in flames after colliding with Front Eagle in the Gulf of Oman, right next to the planet's busiest oil artery.
Yeah, and I'm surprised the price of oil has stayed so stable with this conflict in Iran. I'm expecting it to go absolutely through the roof. Also, the U.S. Navy has deployed a aircraft carrier that was supposed to be decommissioned. They're going to extend the life, so they're going to put it within that region. There's two reasons to do that. Either you want to have a false flag and have Iran hit it, so you can blame it on Iran and then engage into the war. Or the second thing is They don't want to risk any of their newer aircraft carriers because they think Iran may have the capability to actually hit an aircraft carrier. So they're going to test it on. They're going to kind of test them on an older aircraft carrier. I don't feel so good for the sailors that are on that particular aircraft carrier right now because I kind of think the U.S. is playing with fire here by putting that in the region.
You want to play it?
Yeah, let's play it a little bit just so people
there
can see.
sound?
And this is the second time there has been a major oil catastrophe in the last few days. The other one happened in Texas in an oil refinery. We showed that yesterday, and Texas went into a state of lockdown for a lot of regions because there was so much smoke coming off of this oil refinery. Okay, that's pretty good. And I'm expecting a lot more stories like this to happen over the next week or two. So
I'm going to put you on your camera just because I need to touch my eye again.
Okay.
And I know people get grossed out by that. Sorry.
Let's go into the next story here.
Hold on. I can't see anything. Oh, my God. Okay.
And it's the one just before Carney.
God. Okay.
I didn't know what to say there, so I just had to wait.
So it says there's absolutely no reason to ever trust the medical establishment again, in case you weren't already on board. Is there music? Because I haven't seen it.
I don't know if there is. We can just stop. We can just pause it and then mute the music.
Okay. No, I don't ever post. So
And we're gonna
this.
mute the music
Yeah.
just so we didn't get copyright. But pause it really quick.
Yep.
And let's not forget this time in history. A lot of people are trying to forget this, but
On purpose.
But the governments around the world really use this to strip freedoms. And now that we're entering maybe a major world conflict here with Iran as being the kickoff point, I would expect freedoms to start being stripped again. Just remember how they lied to us the first time, and let's be very cautious on what we actually accept from our governments. This was crazy at that time. Like
Yes.
both of us didn't take the jibby jab, but man, it cost us dearly with jobs, financially, and other things. We ended up leaving the country and moving from Canada to Mexico because of this situation.
And because I'm Mexican.
Yeah, well, we were lucky that you were Mexican. We had the option of coming here.
Yes. But yeah, they were so busy.
And then it wasn't them just dancing. It was the guilt, the shame. You had
Yes.
to have a passport to get into places. They were taking your jobs. They weren't letting you see family members while they were on their deathbed. And none of it made sense. And a lot of this nonsense came out afterwards. So,
And still, a lot of people do have that, cognitive dissonance of not wanting to admit the fact that what they did and that because they did take the jibby jab, now they don't want to admit what might have happened, that they were even coerced into it. They don't want to remember what the people that didn't do it had to suffer through, and also the way that they referred to people or saw people that decided to stand up for their own, medical freedom.
yeah, and it's not out of the question that an error like this could come back. I mean, this thing that's escalating in Iran, they could easily say, oh, there's going to be biowarfare or this and that. We need to protect our citizens. Okay, let's continue to go on now. And we have PM Mark Carney. And I originally got this story earlier in the day, and it was upgraded. So it was originally $2 billion Canada was going to give Zelensky. It later on came out that it was $4.3 billion. Canada's on the verge of financial collapse. A lot of people don't know it, but we cover it a lot on this channel because we used to be from Canada. So the housing market is on razor's edge. It's currently starting to collapse and things like that. And they have a PM that just doesn't know how to run his ass from a doorknob. Okay.
It's a weird analogy.
Yeah, I didn't have an analogy. It just kind of came out.
So latest, Carney pledges $4.3 billion in new support for Ukraine's defense as he meets with Zelensky on the sidelines of the G7 summit.
Well, then they're going to have to start giving money for Iran and money for this. It's like these endless wars. They need to stop. I had the same position on Ukraine as I do for the Israeli war. It's like, let them fight it out. Whoever wins, wins. The United States needs to stay out of it, period.
And essentially, every other country also needs to stay out of it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's continue on to Elon Musk. And I kind of put this in here because...
Well, I had you had a clip as well.
Okay, let's read it. Let's watch the clip and then read a little bit about it.
So from Rebel News...
This was the earlier story where it was $2 billion and it was upgraded to $4.3 billion later on.
So this is from an independent media company in Canada, one of the few who actually won a battle, so they would be able to report at the G7, and Rebel News does great work.
Well, and I generally do like their work, but I do have a disagreement with them
Yes.
on their stance on this new forever war.
But it is good that they still continue to try to at least try legally also to stand up to the government and their censorship and the way that they've tried to exclude them from everything.
Yeah, I do agree.
Even though they're a news media company.
I would like to start by condemning in the strongest terms the latest outrage, barbarism from Russia, and express my deep condolences and those of the Canadian people to the families in Kyiv who were affected.
And pause it really quick. And this is kind of ironic because they waited till Trump left to do this. Trump had stated that a lot of people don't know the G7 used to be the G8, and he said it went wrong back in 2014 when it went from the G8 to the G7. What country was exited from the G8? It was Russia. And that's when all the sanctions came on Russia, and they kind of felt ostracized as a country, and they started really creating a more militarized economy and things like that and preparing for this exact situation. But if they would have kept Russia in the G8, it may have lowered tensions and they would have had more negotiating leverage overall, I think. Trump is talking about making it the G8 again. Obviously, the rest of the G7 members are probably against it, considering they're giving billions of dollars to Zelensky. Okay.
Of course, the importance of standing in total solidarity with Ukraine, with the Ukrainian people. And we had a discussion last night amongst G7 leaders. The President and I will discuss more, and then of course we'll have the direct discussion in a moment together. But we underscored the importance of using maximum pressure against Russia, who has refused to come to the table. The President has led unconditionally to come to the table in search of peace. And maximum pressure.
I follow geopolitics and the Russian-Ukraine war very closely on a daily basis. I probably watch an hour or two of war mapping and basic information about what's going on. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. Zelensky is the one that is refusing to come to the negotiating table, even when he does. It's just these hoops that he makes Russia go through. Russia is constantly sending negotiating teams anytime the U.S. or Ukraine request it. So it's just a bunch of propaganda that the Canadian PM is kind of giving there.
Continue?
Yeah, let's continue.
Includes financial pressure, and Canada is announcing today several measures, sanctions, first and foremost, against a number of individuals in Russia.
Okay, we can kind of stop it there. And just so everybody kind of knows, because maybe you get a lot of Western propaganda, but the Russian government is economy is doing extremely well right now. A lot of people don't know this. They actually arrange their economy for situations just like this. So they're creating new alliances through the BRICS, through India, through China. It's surprisingly how well their economy is doing, and a lot of that is to do with sanctions. It's increasing the wealth of the Russian people within the country because now everything is kind of nationalized within that country. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's continue on to the next story here, and that's going to be Elon Musk. And I forgot about how different Elon Musk was when he was a kid, or not a kid, but a much younger person.
Yeah.
And he's quickly turned, like, I don't know. I like a lot of the things he does. I don't like a lot of the things he does. But man, if he would have had this, if he would have still had this attitude he had back then, he wouldn't look like a supervillain sometimes.
Yeah. Walker says about the dancing doctors, it reminds me of the meme that said, remember when there was a devastating global, I'll say, emergency and doctors recorded themselves dancing in hospitals?
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Yes, and it just proves the point. Somebody should have told them, like, stop.
Well, in
stop
Canada,
it.
they had everybody banging pots and pans
And the
outside,
UK as well.
outside of their window at 6 p.m. every single night for a year, in honor of the nurses and doctors that went to work every day, risked their life because they couldn't get a vaccine because there wasn't a vaccine at the
jibby
time.
jab.
Then a vaccine came out,
jibby
and then they fired all the nurses in Canada that refused to get the jibby jab. Mm-hmm. That's how much they honored
Cared
and
about
respected
it.
them. It was a
Yes.
bunch of propaganda.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue on to Elon Musk.
Okay. He says, I was just little
Back
E
when he
back
used to have
then.
real hair.
Well, back to when he used to have less hair. He looks older there because of the hairline. He got implants.
Yeah. Not
Say
breast
your name, spell it for me, tell me what you do.
Elon Musk, ELON-MUSK, Chief Executive Officer of Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX. I think there's only so much we can learn by looking through a telescope, and eventually we need to go out there if we're to find the answer.
What is he wearing?
Say your
I mean, the sound was a little bit villainous, but
But that being said, I was listening to Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, both of them, which I'm liking less and less each day. But I used to really follow Jordan Peterson for a long time. He still has some good views on some things, but both those guys seem to be very pro censorship, pro war. But that being said, they did have a okay take on Musk. Like, what happened to him? It's like he got Twitter brain or something. He interacts with it too much. I mean, I use it to gather news stories. Once in a while I'll write a comment, but man, he was really sucked into it to such an extreme he had to buy
he
it.
became it.
Yeah.
He became Twitter. Maybe that's where.
But thank God he did buy it, because he allowed free speech to kind of maintain there. We'll see what happens if this tension in the Middle East continues. Hopefully free speech continues in the United States, because it's one of the last bastions kind of.
And also, I was going to say, maybe if we do reach the singularity, Elon will live in the pipes of X. And that's where you will always be able to talk to him.
And we're in the last two stories, and they're immigration stories, and it's just some statistics. And these are pretty shocking statistics.
You want me to talk about what Trump officials did or no?
I missed that story. Yeah, let's go to this
I mean,
one
it's
first.
also immigration, but Trump officials reverse pause on immigration raids targeting farms and hotels. The reported change in stance comes after the president admitted hardline immigration policies were taking very good long-time workers from key industries. Apparently, why so many pop-ups? Apparently, the Trump administration is reportedly reversing a recently formulated plan to refrain from conducting immigration raids against undocumented migrants in the agricultural, hotel, and restaurant industries just days after adopting the original policy.
Yeah, so this is a very important story. It's not for the reason that you think. This actually has to do with the Iran war again, and it has to do with the jibby jab era. So Trump really listens to his base, and that's why a lot of people kind of like him, because if they voice their discontent, there's a good chance he's going to hear them. During the jibby jab era, Trump was very pro jibby jab, and when his base came out, started booing him on stage, really letting him know his discontent, he kind of shifted policies and put RFK in charge of that, which overall is working out a lot better than it could have. There's still some work to be done there. But number two, with Iran, it's very important that his base vocalizes their discontent and that they will stop supporting him. A lot of people are doing that. I know we're doing that. Hopefully this gets all the way up to Trump, because somebody has his ear telling him this forever war with Iran is a good idea. And hopefully, even if he does get into this, he'll have enough sense to reverse course if he can hear his base, and it has happened before. This is a very recent incident, meaning it just happened, I believe, yesterday, of him listening to his base again. A lot of his base was discontent that he had this policy that he was going to allow a lot of illegal immigration, and so he reversed it. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he listens to his base when it comes to Iran.
So the Department of Homeland Security announced the return to raids on such workers on a Monday morning call with representatives from 30 immigration and customs enforcement field offices, Washington Post reported.
Okay, and that's good. Let's move to the next story, because we're getting a little short on time, and we are going to go to RUMBLE. That's the green monster, because we have a few stories that are a little bit too hot for YouTube.
So just in from Nick Sotor, Tom Homan announces Border Patrol had only 95 encounters with illegals total yesterday along the entire 2,000-mile southern border. This is the lowest number in history.
Yeah, and this is a pretty impressive number. Why? Because Biden used to tout low numbers of a few thousand a day, but the reason he was getting a few thousand a day because he wasn't putting anybody on the border to actually have the encounters. The border is completely militarized right now, so if anybody tries to cross, they're going to have an encounter. So it should be higher encounters, yet it's almost at zero. 95 encounters, some of the lowest numbers in history. So things are working on that front. On the actual deporting illegal immigrants, Trump is actually doing the least of any modern president. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
I go over these statistics quite often on the show, so much so I have them almost memorized. Bill Clinton deported over 12.5 million illegal immigrants. After him, it was George Bush, who did 10.5 illegal immigrants deported. After him, it was Barack Obama, who did 5.5 million. Then it was Trump, who did 1.4 million, which was dramatically less than anybody else. And then Biden came in, did 5 million deportations, and now Trump's back in, and so far he's done 100,000
132 now.
132,000 deportations. So even if you combine Trump's first and second term, it is a fraction of what any other modern president has done. A lot of people don't know this. And this is kind of why one of the reasons I do like Trump in office, because the mainstream media puts so much scrutiny on him. They really put a magnifying glass to him, but sometimes you just have to go research on what's really going on. And what's really going on, he is primarily deporting criminals and criminals first. There are some people getting rounded up that aren't criminals, but that being said, Trump is very aware of the narrative and he wants to control the narrative. That's why there's a website. Why don't you talk about it?
There's a government websites, both DHS and I forget the other one, but you can go look at every single person that has left, what they were charged with, how long their deportation order had been out for, because, I mean, all of these people, they talk about due process. And, I mean, you can go see how many already had the due process of having a deportation order, be it because they have a criminal record or committed a crime, or because they didn't show up to one of the appointments that they had in front of a judge to talk about their case. So once again, it's just the noise that you have to kind of wade through to actually get to the truth. And same with the numbers, same with the whole now they're going back into the hotels and the agricultural sector. And it's because, of course, a lot of the illegal immigrants that have criminal records or already have a deportation order will try to find a job and try to do something.
Yeah, and
okay, go.
I talk to a lot of progressive liberals about this. I use those statistics. They don't believe them. I ask them to research it, and I think it is really messes with their mind when they actually go research it, because they can't believe it's only 134,000 people have been deported, and especially when you compare it to the 12.5 million of Bill Clinton.
Yes.
So, and again, Trump did deport 1,400,000 immigrants in his first term, but that was a lot less than every other president. Okay, let's go into
before we move on from the presidents, Walker says Bill Clinton is one of the people most responsible for the chaos here in El Salvador.
Yeah.
And for a lot of chaos everywhere else too.
Okay, let's go into the last story of the day, or on YouTube, before we go over to the Green Monster.
So from Charlie Kirk, boom, nearly 1 million illegals have already self-deported under President Trump thanks to an unapologetic shock and awe campaign of raids and border enforcement. When President Dwight Eisenhower launched his deportation roundup in 1954, nearly 10 foreigners left voluntarily for each one arrested. The same pattern is holding today. Remember, mass deportations include arrests and self-removals.
And let's also remember that there is a policy under Trump where you can go to any airport. We have friends that were recently at an American airport, and they actually witnessed the people in front of them doing this, asking where do they go into the airport to find the resources for this policy. And the policy is they'll give you a plane ticket anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to necessarily be in your home country. Many other countries do accept refugees, like Canada and many European countries. So they will buy you a free ticket to any country you want to go into the world that will accept you, number one. And number two, they'll give you $1,000 if you do so on top of the plane ticket. So that's why so many people are self-deporting.
And actually going through with it. Yeah.
And going to a country that would actually kind of welcomes them now. Okay, and we're about to head over to RUMBLE because we got quite a few stories that we couldn't talk about here on YouTube, mainly Iranian stories. So if you're interested in the Iranian conflict, kind of follow us over. And if this conflict does escalate and it continues to go on and on into one of these forever wars, we'll do more of the coverage over on Rumble or RUMBLE every day. I'll just put a couple of the major talking points or major stories about it here on YouTube.
And the channel name is the exact same. Well, not the exact same. It's not in the guy. And yeah, you can find it pretty easily, same logo.
We're almost at 180 subscribers. So if there's 3 people watching that want to subscribe, it would help us out.
Yes, thank you so much. And we'll see you over on RUMBLE.
Yep.
And we also read comments, etc. over there as well. So I'm ending it now.
Okay, I'm going to log into Rumble here.
Oh, I forgot to say, let me know if it restarts because it restarted yesterday. Well, hopefully.